This is Gemara Avodah Zarah Daf Yod, and we're holding in the very bottom of Testament Beis as we continue to figure out the different calculations, figuring out what year it is, post-Chorban, pre-Chorban, calculating the different years against each other, etc. Says the Gemara, Ha'u shtara davik siv bei. If there was a shtar, that was a date that was written in the shtar ahead of the date that we're sitting at, and we turn over to Yod Amid Aleph, says the Gemara, Shis Shnin Yisei Rasa. So it's an extra 6 years that the shtar is dated, not to today, 6 years ahead of today. So they thought this is a classical post-dated shtar. And you have to wait until the time arrives. And you cannot collect till that date. Rav Nachman Haisafra says Rav Nachman, no. Haisafra davkana kasva. He wrote precise. And these are the 6 years when the Greeks ruled in Elam. We don't count those years, but the Greeks, and therefore maybe the Sefer Bismane Kasva dated it by the Greek date, and that is the reason why it is indeed the proper date. Tanya. Rabbi Yossi Omer Sheishan Malcha Be'elam V'Acha U'Plashta Malchusa B'Chol Eilam Kulai. Even though it might seem that it's 6 years off, it's not any time off at all. So says the Gemara, what do we see? We see that we're using a shtar with a civil date, and we're using that shtar to collect. So Mask, if Ravacha Bar Yaakov 10 lines down, how do you know that they're dating it by the Greeks? Maybe they left off the first 1,000, they grabbed hold of the next 1,000, and therefore the date is in the shtar is indeed post-dated. How do you know it's really going by the Greek calendar? Says Rav Nachman, this is the Metzias. When they write shtaros in Golos, they do it by the Yavanim. Who savar? So says Yaakov thought he's pushing him off. Dafak, Dak Vashkach, he went out and he checked and he indeed found the Tanya. They found that that's indeed how they dated shtaros, and therefore he wasn't just pushing him off, that was the reality. Amar Ravina Masnisan Amideko, the Mishnah is precise, the Tanan, Becha Benisar Shoshana L'Melachim, Uleregalim, Vamrinon, L'Melachim L'Mayachasa. What relevance is it that the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah in the beginning teaches us that it is Rosh Hashanah for Melachim? And on that, Amar Rav Chisda, L'Shtarai, so we see that we use the date of the Melachim for Shtarais, Utanan, and we learned, who cares for years? So Kasha Shtaris Hadadi. So is it Echad Nisan Echad Le Tishrei? Answers the Gemara Mishanina, and we learned Kan the Malchi Yisrael, Kan the Malchi Alkom. The Malchi Alkom Mishtari Minyana, the Malchi Yisrael, Tishrei Minyana, excuse me. The Goyim we count from Tishrei, and the Yedin, the Malchi Yisrael. Minisa minyanan vanan hashta mitishrei minyanan. And now, so says the Gemara, we count nowadays from Tishrei like the Goyim did, and therefore, going back to our kasha, how do you know the shtar was dated by the Yavanim? Maybe it was dated the date of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Says the Gemara, if it was Minisan beina lemine, we should count from Nisan. We see that it was indeed counted from the Yevanim. And now we go and we quote the Mishnah, 15 lines from the wide lines, the day of Genusya of their empires. Says Gemara, what is this? My Yom Genusya Shel Malcheim. Amar Rav Yehuda Yom Shemamidim by Akom Es Malkom, the day that the Goyim inaugurated their emperor. We see 2 different dates. One is the day which he inaugurated the emperor, and one is the day that the son took over. But wait, you got to know your history. Did the Romans ever appoint a son after an emperor? Rabbi Yosef. Hanoch Kotin is Aticha by Goyim. The pasuk says about Rome, I made you inferior amongst the nations. Shein Moshima Melech ben Melech. That what they do not appoint Melech ben Melech. You're very despised. They don't have a ksav and a lashain. So says the Gemara, we see that the Goyim, the Romans particularly, did not appoint the son ben Melech. Elamai, says the Gemara, Yom Genusia. What does it mean, Yom Genusia? Yom Halei, to the day of the emperor's birth. I've Atanya, the same kasha, Yom Genusia, Yom Haleida. Like kasha, Adideo Debre. I've Atanya, Yom Genusia, Shalai, Yom Genusia, Shal Benoi, Yom Haleida, Shalai, Yom Haleida, Shal Benoi. So clearly it's not the same date. Elamai, Yom Genusia, says the Gemara, Yom Shemamindim, Boy Malcolm, Veloy Kasha. Hadidei, Hadibrei. One is the emperor, and one is the son. The kasha we just said, but wait, the Romans don't appoint the son of an emperor. Says the Gemara Mukmi. When the emperor would request, then they would kigoin is virus. Bar Antoninus de Molach Esvarus, the son of Antoninus, who was indeed a ruler as his father asked. Omar le Antoninus the Rebbe. So Antoninus famously has a relationship with Rebbe. Says the Gemara, he asks Rebbe, Be'ina diyimloch asvaris brei te choisai. Antoninus asks Rebbe, I want my son to take over, v'titiavid tivraya kalnaya. And that Tiberia should be a free community. But if I give one of these requests to my servants, they'll listen. But Shrei lo yavdi, two they were not. So Rebbe says, I see Gavra. Rebbe brought a man, Arkavei Chavre, and he had a ride on his shoulders. And he put a dove in the hand of the person on top of the shoulders. And he said to the one on bottom, Emer le'ila dilmafrach min yodei yaina. Tell the upper one to let the dove fly from his hands. That's how Rebbe responded to Antoninus. An interesting response. He says a mashal of one on another's shoulders, and he puts the dove on the top one until the bottom one let the top one dove out. Omar says Antoninus, Shema minachi Carmeli. No, Rebbe's teaching me. Atboi minayu. Ask for them as follows. Tasveiris, Beriasveiris, your son, Yimnoch should be the king out to Chutein after you. Ve'emalei, and then tell your son Asveiris, that what? Tetiavitavra kalnaya, meaning, you Antoninus have two desires, give Aldik. Put your son in place and tell your son your desire to free the city of Tiberias. And now it continues the Gemara, Amar Le Antoninus at a different occasion says to Rabbi, two lines at the bottom. The Roman dignitaries are persecuting me. So Rebbe responds, he would bring Antoninus into a garden. And every day he would pluck a radish from in front of Antoninus. And Amar, he said, Shema Minochi Kamar Le. This is what Rebbe means. At Katol Chad. What Rebbe means to teach me is kill them one at a time. Do not fight all of them at once. Says the Gemara as we turn over to Yudam and Beis, I don't understand. Why doesn't Rebbe just tell him? What's Rebbe doing? Making a whole show, showing him with Mishalim what to do. Says the Gemara, Amar, Rebbe said, Shami, he himself was afraid of the Roman dignitaries. Whisper, as I call, you never know who could hear you. And another story says the Gemara 4 lines down. Yudam and Beis, Havaleyahu Barata Dishama Gira. Ramtininas had a daughter named Gira, Ka'avda Yisura, who did something wrong. And Antoninus wanted to ask Rebbe what to do. So says Antoninus, Shadar le Gira. He sent Rebbe an herb, Shadar le, Rebbe responded and said to him, Kasbarta, coriander, to show that he should execute the daughter. Shadar lei bakarte. Antonini sent Rebbe a leek. Shalch lei chasa. Rebbe sent him lettuce. Have mercy on her. Again, what's exactly going on in the depth over here, we're going to leave for now. Kol yoyma v'shadar lei dava pricha b'matara asa. Every day, Antoninis would send Rebbe crushed gold, b'matrasa on leather sacks, v'chiti apumayu, and there would be wheat on the top so you couldn't see the gold underneath. Amar lehu, he would tell the messengers, Am techita Rebbe, bring this wheat to Rebbe. Amar le, Rebbe lo sarchina. They would say, what do you mean? Rebbe doesn't need, Rebbe would say to him, I don't need. Islay tuva, I have a lot of wheat. Amar Antoninis would say to Rebbe, lavi laman, de basrach, let it be for your children. The avi libasrach, you will give it to their children, your grandchildren. The asu basrach will come after you. The asi minayu, those who come for them. Nefek alayu, they will be able to have it to pay mine. It says Antoninis, my successors, the taxes, etc. Havole ahi nikrasa, says the Gemara. About 12 lines down, the first one on line is Ahi. Antoninis had a certain cave, a passageway that he would go from his house to the house of Rabbi. Every day he would bring two servants with him to Rebbe's house. Rebbe, one servant he would kill when he got to Rebbe's house, and one he would kill when he would come back, thereby ensuring that he had protection. But no one knew what he would do. Both servants would be killed. Amar le, Antoninis told Rebbe, when I come to your house, lo nishkach gvar kamach, no one should be with you, just me and you, Rebbe. Yom Echad, one day, Ashchad Rechlina Bar Chama, Davi Yosef Rechlina Bar Chama was there. Amar, Antoni said to Rebbe, Lo aminu, did I not tell you, Binu dasino lo nishkach gaver kamach? Did I not tell you that when I come, I don't want anyone here? Amar le, Rebbe, you said, Les din bar inish, this is not a person. Amar le, Antonina said, Emalei lahu avda the gani abava. So tell the servant who's by the door to call him, say, let him wake up and come in. He wanted to know, he wanted to test, is Rav Chanina Bar Chama and truly not immortal? Can he actually go and wake up his dead servant? Also Rav Chanina Bar Chama went, Ashchei Davei Katel. Rav Chanina Bar Chama went, and he saw that the servant was killed. Amar, he said, what am I supposed to do? If I go back, if the servant's dead, then what? You're never supposed to report back with bad news. If I just leave the servant and I go, it's going to be insulting. So Bayi Rachmi Alei, meaning Rachalina Bar Chama didn't even know. But he made his cheshbon, so what did? He davened, and Va'achye, the servant came back to life. V'shadrei, and sent him to Antoninis. Amar, Antoninis said, Yadana, now I know, Zuti disbechu mechayim esim, that the least amongst you, Yidden are able to perform Tchias HaMesim. Miu bino dasinu loshach inish kamach, but still he said to Rabbi, guess what? I don't want anyone to be here when I get here. So continues the Gemara, 4 lines from the wide lines. Kol yamavi mishamish leRebbe ma'ich, every day Antoninis would feed Rebbe food, lei mashka, mashkale, serving drinks, kavi boy Rebbe lemisik baraya. When Rebbe wanted to get onto his bed, have a gochin kame baraya. So Antoninis himself would bend down and allow Rebbe to stamp on him. Amar Lein, you say to Rebbe, Sakil lovei leparaya, climb onto me onto your bed. Amar, Rebbe says, it's not appropriate to belittle the kingdom by stepping on you. Amar mi Antonina said, if only I could be the footstep for you. Amar lei. Antonina says to Rebbe, Asina la'alma dasi. Am I going to come to Olam Haba? Amar lei, Rebbe says, in ya. Amar lei, I v'aksiv lo'yeh shar lebeis Esav. You should not be, there'll be no remnants to the house of Esav. So ask Antoninis, I'm not going anywhere. Responds Rebbe, no, that's only ba'oisa ma'isa Esav, but if not, you'll go to Olam Haba. Tanami hachi, love yishar lebeis Esav, yachal hakol. Tamalar the base Esav, which means V'Isa Maisa Esav. Amr Leantini says to Rabbi Ivak Sev Shama Edaim Milachel V'Chol Nisiyasel. There in Gehenim is Edom, the kings and the presidents. So what do we see? We see those from Edom are in Gehenim. Amar Le, Rabbi says, you're right. Melachel v'loy kol malchia, kol nisiyah v'loy kol shareh. It's telling Antoninus, you act appropriately, you'll go to Gan Eden. Tanami hachi malcha v'lo kol malcha, kol nisiyah v'lo kol shareh. Malchaya v'lo kol malchaya. Prat l'Antoninus ben Asvaris that he is not going to go to Gehenim. Kol nisiyah v'lo kol shareh. Prat l'ketia bar shalim. We'll stop over here and we'll go into the story of Ketia Bar Shalom in the next year, B'siyata Dishmaya.